Hi guys, welcome back to the Mina Does Art Stuff YouTube channel. My name is Mina and on this channel we do art stuff. Today I am here to do my very first sketchbook flip through, at least the first on this channel. And yeah, I'm really excited to do that. I don't, usually my watercolour sketchbooks aren't really much to look at. They kind of start out well intentioned and end up looking a mess. So in the past, up until now, I've not really felt like I've wanted to share my watercolour sketchbooks. Like I say, they do tend to be a bit of a mess, and maybe at some point I'll pull out some of my earlier watercolour sketchbooks to share with you, because I think that might be fun to look back on where I started and compare it to where I am now. And I've been watercolouring for less than 2 years, so it's not even that long ago, but I can already see a massive improvement in my skills, which is amazing. Anyway, if you are new to this channel, thank you so much for checking me out. If you like what you see, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and let's jump into it. Like I said, I'm posting a lot more frequently at the moment, and now that we are officially done with having tradespeople coming into the house for house projects, I can actually narrate as I'm doing stuff. Now, I will still be doing some voiceover videos, but for the most part going forward, it might be a bit of a mix, and there might be some more real-time videos with me actually talking in real time. Okay, so first up, this sketchbook is one that I got from AliExpress. I can't remember the exact name of the company that produces it, but I'll leave a link to the sketchbook in the description box below. I really enjoyed it. I tried a smaller size of this sketchbook previously, and then I got the larger one because I enjoyed it so much, and it was advertised on AliExpress as being a cotton watercolour sketchbook, and I had my doubts that it was 100% cotton, but it was £140 300 GSM paper, which is great to get in a sketchbook. You don't often get 300 GSM paper in a sketchbook, especially watercolour paper, so I wanted to give it a go. It has 24 pages, so 48 sides that you can paint on, so it's a decent number of pages in for a sketchbook. I like it. It's a good amount. It's not too many to feel like it's going to take me forever to finish, and it's not so few that I feel like, oh, I've just burned through this really quickly kind of thing. Now, I started the sketchbook on the 1st of August and I finished it on the 10th of October, so a little over 2 months, so that's not too bad at all. And there were definitely, I wasn't painting in it every single day, but some days I painted 2 or 3 pages, other days I just painted 1 or none, so it was a real mix. But this was my main sketchbook at the time, and so whenever I wanted to use my watercolour sketchbook for something, this was the one I would grab. And yeah, so like I said, I will leave it linked down below. And going back to the cotton aspect of it, so it was, like I said, advertised as being cotton watercolour paper. Didn't give percentage or how much cotton, or if it was 100% cotton, so it was a bit unclear. But upon getting the book and looking at it, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it on camera, you can kind of see there's a bit of a watermark on the paper. I'm trying to find a page where I can show it to you more clearly. We'll do a proper flip through in a second. You can't see it at the moment because I have been painting on it. Okay, if I hold it up, you can kind of see it there, and I can see it clearly on my side, and it's actually this way up. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see that. It says 5 Fabriano, so from that I gather this is Fabriano 5 watercolour paper. And if you know anything about Fabriano, Fabriano 5 is 50% cotton, so this is a really good quality paper in this sketchbook, and definitely would recommend. It's very affordable as well. I think this size was around 14-ish pounds. I can't remember exactly. Like I said, it will be linked below, and prices on AliExpress fluctuate based on if stuff is on sale or not. But yes, that's where I found it. I haven't purchased another one, only because I'm moving on to a different style of sketchbook, but if I ever want to come back to one of these, I will definitely order another one, and I'll show you what my next sketchbook is going to be once we finish flipping through this one. Okay, so that's enough babble for now. Let's get on with it. So you get these like cream coloured end pages that are not watercolour paper, and then you start with your first page. So I just did a really sort of basic pattern, I guess. I just started out by doing this sort of zigzag rectangular pattern and then added some line markings to make it look like open books. I just thought it was fun, something easy and fun to start the book with, sketchbook with. I find the first page can be quite intimidating, so I went with a simple pattern. And I believe I used my Holbein watercolours for this because I actually swatched them on the next page. So this is, as I said, 1st of August when I started this sketchbook. Then I did this swatching page and I just swatched all my Holbein watercolours. I just recently added a few other colours to the palette, so I wanted to swatch it all out in this book, and that's what I did there. This was also on the 1st of August. This page I filled in later in the month on the 29th of August. I just was playing around with like these blending circles and stuff. This is an exercise I do often when I want to paint something but I can't think about what I can't focus on one specific thing that I want to paint, or I want to play around with a colour palette to see how it works together before using it for a bigger project. I'll just paint these like overlapping blending circles and layering circles, and then usually I'll come back later at some point and just do some doodles on them. It's just a fun little exercise to do either when you can't think of what to paint or if you want to like see how a colour palette goes together. I quite liked this end of the colour palette, didn't like it with this green, so it was a good little exercise. Then please do not judge me based on these two paintings. They are, this one just went completely wrong. I completely lost my like vanishing point perspective wise. It's all supposed to come to like a point here and somehow ended up with like a line. That turned out terrible, and I didn't even finish the painting because I was like, that's just wrong. And this one as well, whilst not as bad as this one, definitely turned out too dark. I lost my highlights in the water area, and yeah, just not overall not very happy with how these two turned out, but it's all a learning process and I definitely learnt from them. And these were both painted on the 2nd of August. And then moving on, still on the 2nd of August, I did this little abstract doodly type page, again just playing around with colour. I hadn't painted a huge amount the month prior, so in July, and hadn't done a huge amount of painting, so it was kind of just warming back up to using my paints a bit more frequently and trying to be a little bit less rigid about it. And then I did this little cube type abstract painting, again just playing with colour and some colour mixing and stuff like that, also on the 2nd of August. Again, these are all with the Holbein watercolours at this point, except this one was with Roman Schmall, I remember that. Then, oh, this was when I did my granulating palette, if you guys remember that video. I will try and link any videos that I talk about below this video if I can remember. Otherwise you can find all these videos on my channel. I set up a granulating watercolour palette, and this was where I just swatched it out at the end of that video for you guys, so you can really see some of those granulating textures coming through. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Then, oh, and this is my Nightshade watercolours. When I received those and unboxed them, I did the swatching on this side, and then I went ahead and did some colour mixing on this side as well. So that was in that video. Then I'm a Patreon supporter for Dr. Otto Cano. She has a YouTube channel here, and every month for the tier that I'm subscribed to, she sends out dot cards with like a specific colour and then different brands versions of that colour. So this was Hooker's Green, and so it's all the different brands versions of Hooker's Green, and I decided to paint leaves to test them out. And this one was on the 10th of August. So we go from the 4th of August when I did the granulating palette to the 10th of August. Oh, sorry, and 5th of August for that, and then 10th. So some gaps in there. I was filming the video for my Roman Schmall Paint With Me video after I rearranged that palette, and this was on the 11th of August. I painted these two pages. I just really wasn't happy with how they turned out. The flowers were a bit flat, and I just didn't like the composition that much. The landscape, whilst it started out okay, once I added in the lines on the hills, I didn't like it anymore. And so I finished it, where I got it to the point where I was like, okay, I'm done with this now. And it just wasn't what I liked, so I sort of left it. Then, oh, this was the painting I did for the core watercolour Paint With Me. When after I set up my core watercolour palette, I do come back to the Roma Schmall, don't worry. But I did this on the 17th of August. And this was just me playing around. I just drew a bunch of teardrop shapes and I was playing around with the granulating watercolour palette that I put together. Again, it was just a day where I wanted to paint something, but I couldn't decide what to paint, so I decided to just do a simple sort of pattern. Then this was another attempt at doing a Roma Schmall Paint With Me video, which I wasn't entirely happy with how it turned out. I didn't mind this page. This page turned out quite nice. I quite like the sort of knit pattern effect. This page, however, just turned into a bit of a muddy mess, again with that whole playing around with different colour palettes and stuff, doing the circles. And this was done on the 27th and 28th of August, but again, I came back to this later and added the gold highlights. And I actually quite like how it looks with the gold little metallic highlights on this particular pattern. Not so much a fan. I mean, I don't mind, I like the gold highlights on it, but I'm not a fan of the overall colour palette. Now I can't remember if I actually included this in the video, but I did record this for the Roma Schmall Paint With Me section, and these were all the colours that I used in this, and it was a lot of fun actually. I really enjoyed it, but I can't remember now if I included this in that video. You could see that I had a bit of trouble recording for that video in terms of getting paintings that I liked to include for it. Then here on the 29th of August, I did these two loose landscapes. I can't remember which palette I used for it, but it was fun just to sort of stretch those muscles. And yeah, again, a bit darker than I would have wanted, but not too bad. This is an upcoming video. I filmed it on the 29th of August and I still haven't done the voiceover for it, but I had a Daniel Smith swatch card, it's not swatch card, sorry, dot card with the palette by Shirley Trevina, or her selected palette of Daniel Smith colours, and I do a little swatching video and talk through that. Like I said, that video will be coming up in the future. Then this was one that I did sort of preparing for the, I had an idea, what was this? This was with core watercolours. I did a galaxy painting and then I got a little bit impatient and started splattering on the white paint for the stars before the paper was a bit drier, and so I ended up with these really unsightly, rather large splodges on the paper. That wasn't what I was going for, but I finished it anyway. And from a distance, it doesn't look too bad. It's just when you look at it up close or in person, you're just like, oh, that looks a bit weird. But I do like the background sort of colours effect. And then again, these are with, I believe these are with the core watercolours, or with the palette that I set up using the core watercolours. And this was again just something to play around with. I just did some circles and splodged weird shapes and then doodled on them once it was dry with silver and white markers, paint pens. Then this is the one that I did in the end for the Roma Schmall Paint With Me video. This was what I finally settled on, and I did both paintings together for that video, both on the 1st of September. So I did a galaxy painting, which I really like how this one turned out, and then I did this sort of loose florals where I outlined some of the leaves and the petals. I really quite like that effect and how that looks. So this was fun. Then on the, again, still on the 1st of September, I did these little somewhat like cacti. Just didn't really turn out that well, but it was fun playing around with the colours. And then I did this little rainbow with flowers underneath. Again, I was playing around with some ideas that I had for paintings that I wanted to do for my daughter's bedroom. I didn't do this idea in the end, but I was playing around with some thoughts and ideas that I had. Then on the 2nd of September, there's actually another painting that I did for my daughter's room, and it was kind of like a rainbow honeycomb painting, and I was mixing all the colours on a separate palette as I was going, mixing the rainbow. And then I had all these colours left over on the palette that I didn't want to waste, so I then went ahead and painted this page in my sketchbook using all the leftover paint on the palette. and again with that outlining effect, and I really like how that one turned out. It's a lot softer of a colour palette than I normally would go with, but I really like how it looks, and I really enjoyed that one. And then I had a real gap here from the 2nd of September to the 23rd of September, where I just obviously didn't come back to this for a while, and I don't think I did a huge amount of painting during those weeks either. It was a very busy couple of weeks back then. But then I came back and I did this painting here, which was inspired by a video by Emma Lefebvre here on YouTube, and so that was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed that. And I swatched out the colours that I used down the side here. Can't remember which palette I used here now for this one. I feel like it was my core palette, but I might be wrong. Then here, this is some planning I was doing for an upcoming video that I haven't filmed yet, but it's coming. And this was a my White Nights watercolours, and I was just trying to figure out what are my essential colours to have in a White Nights watercolour palette, and then fun extra colours that I would also like to include, sort of thing. So this is, like I said, planning for a future video. Then I had fun doing this one. This was just some loose watery blendy apple paintings, getting in the autumnal vibe, and yeah, I really liked it. And I actually, in the end, once it was dry, it felt like it was missing something, and I actually went round and I added some details and texture with some coloured pencil, which was quite fun. It's not too much, but just enough to add a bit of texture and something extra to it. This was just another having fun, playing around kind of painting. What did I do? No, I painted the splodges first in random shapes. And once it was dry, sorry, once it was dry, I went over it and outlined all the different shapes with a black pen, and then went ahead and continued to draw more random shapes over it all. It was like, again, one of those days where I wanted to paint something or just do something creative, but didn't have the brain space to figure anything out. At this point, based on the date, I was recovering from a really bad cold. So I think it was just, I needed something that was going to take my mind off of things and just keep my hands busy. As you can see, I do a lot of this type of thing in my sketchbooks, which is a great place for that. Then the 28th of September, I did this painting, which wasn't too bad. Like, it was alright. Wasn't my favourite thing. I felt like it was a bit flat. The colours were a little bit too dark. There wasn't enough light and white space left behind. It kind of just got a little bit too much too quickly. And then I think it was a couple of days after I came back to it with some coloured pencil and added the loose sort of sketchy outlines and stuff, and I think it looks better with that. It's still not great, don't get me wrong, it's far from perfection, but it looks better, so that's good. And here I was just playing around with some bee paintings. I've never really painted bees before. Obviously this is not meant to be hyper realistic by any stretch. That's not really my style, but I had fun painting these loose-ish bee shapes. That was the 3rd of October. Oh, and then I did this also on the 3rd of October, and I really liked how this turned out. It was really fun, and I think this would be really fun for something like wrapping paper or like a card or something like that, and I thought it was just quite nice. But then I had an idea that maybe, you know, I've been doing these little outliney type stuff on some of my paintings so far, and I thought maybe it would look nice with some black pen, like little details and outlines and stuff. But I didn't want to do it on this in case I didn't like it, and I didn't want to ruin this. So I did another one on the other page the next day. It's on the 4th of October, and I liked how this one turned out as well. But then I went over it with the black pen, and I also really like how this looks. It definitely looks, it's got that little bit of added detail with the black lines. But I like both of them in different ways, so it was nice to play around with that little idea. Then I just did some fun loose pumpkins, feeling the pumpkin vibes, and then I did this really fun mushroom painting. I posted about this on Instagram, This was based on a photo that I actually saw online somewhere, and I can't remember where I saw it now, but I saved the picture of it on my phone as inspiration. This isn't like a like for like of that painting, of that picture I mean, but it was a picture of mushrooms, and like you can see all the gills and stuff on the underside, which I thought was very fun, and I wanted to kind of replicate that just in my way, as it were. And yeah, so I did like a base of watercolour, then I went over it with my Derwent drawing pencils, which are really nice sort of like earthy colours. They're not super vibrant, but that was perfect for this. And I went over and added all the line detail with the Derwent drawing pencils, which I really enjoyed. Only downside, and I didn't realise this at the time, but a lot of the pencil marks transferred to the other page. So you can see there's like some colour that's transferred over from the pencils. It's fine, it's a sketchbook, it's not, I'm not super precious about it, but it wasn't something, it was something I was just not having really used coloured pencils in a sketchbook or much at all. I just kind of forgot that that was something that would happen. So this was the 6th of October, sorry. Then I have this spread, which is going to be an upcoming video as well. I did this with my Nightshade watercolours, which we swatched earlier. These ones. So just using these 4 colours, I mixed them together like in different stages and painted this chevron rainbow, which is great. It was just a fun way of playing around with the colours that I had and showing that with just 4 colours, and in fact I probably could have done it with just 3. I had a sap green as well, which you could have done without, to do this exercise. And it was just fun to be able to create a rainbow of shades and values just from those handful of paints that I had. And again, this is going to be an upcoming video coming soon, hopefully. This was done on the 7th of October. Then also on the 7th of October I did this one. I like how this one turned out better than the other one I showed you that I said than this one. Definitely like this one better. I did the outlining here with paint rather than with pencil, but overall it was just a fun piece. It wasn't meant to be anything super super crazy. And then here I was playing around with an idea that I had for a larger piece that I'm working on at the moment. This was done on the 8th of October. I just did some Monstera leaves and playing around with the paints, and then also adding in some salt to get this lovely sort of texture effect. I'm loving playing with salt textures at the moment, so that's been a lot of fun. And then another one that's going to be an upcoming upcoming video is this spread. I did this as a colour mixing, so I did these pumpkins that I showed you, where is it? Here. And then in my other sketchbook, I started another sketchbook as a means of practicing like actual sketching. And so this is only about a third full, so it's not finished yet, but I did this spread. I did this page with these fun pumpkins, and I sketched out the outline of the pumpkins with black pen. And then I painted them. And when I was painting this one, I was like, oh, this would be a really fun way to do some colour mixing, to have the different areas for the colour mixes, and then having it kind of be a picture as well rather than just a swatch. There's nothing wrong with just a swatch. I do tons of those, but I thought it'd be fun to do it where it looks like an actual picture or something. And obviously these aren't traditional pumpkin colours, but I thought it'd be really fun. So I did a variety of different colour mixing exercises using the colours from my granulating watercolour palette. So things like Lunar Blue and Potter's Pink, it's like it creates this really beautiful dusky sort of purpley muted neutral. Cascade Green and Lunar Earth create this really beautiful super granulating and colour separating colour mixture there. Cobalt Green and Aussie Red Gold make a really beautiful granulating green colour. That's really pretty there as well. And then also Sodalite and Buff Titanium create a really beautiful soft grey as well. Lots of really lovely colour combinations basically, and it was a really fun exercise. And then finally the last page, again like I mentioned earlier, I get these dot cards from Otto Kano from being her Patreon, and so there was a few that I hadn't swatched out yet, so I just decided to do the last page as these colour swatches. Okay, so that's it for this sketchbook. This one's all done now. Like I said, started on the 1st of August, finished on the 10th of October. My next sketchbook is going to be this one. It's an Etchalab watercolour sketchbook. I believe they call it the Everyday Sketchbook. Let's just open it. There we go. I got this one a while ago. I recently ordered the B5 portrait version of this, but I want to use this little one first. So similar concept, got the elastic. It's a white sort of canvas cover, which apparently you can paint on, so that sounds like fun. And yeah, it starts, and I believe the first page is also watercolor paper. This is 100% cotton. It's 230 GSM, so it's a bit thinner than your typical 300 GSM paper. You can see the texture there. And everything I've heard about it is that this is really lovely paper to paint on. So I'm looking forward to this being my new sketchbook. I'm not sure how many pages are in this one, but yeah, hopefully this will be a feature sketchbook flip through on this channel. It's a little bit smaller than the other one, so this other sketchbook is a little bit bigger than A5. The Etcher sketchbook is A5, so this other one is a little bit bigger, but still a really good size, and I'm looking forward to jumping into my new sketchbook soon. Alright, thank you so much for joining me today. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to purchase anything from Jackson's, I have my Jackson's affiliate link below, and what that does is it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it means if you use that link to make your purchases, then I get a small commission from Jackson's when you do that, which I would really appreciate. It's a great way to help support this channel. Also, if it's your first time ordering from Jackson's, you get an extra 10% off when you use that link, so it's a win-win for you. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you guys again in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.